Now we're at all-time market highs and pretty much still an all-time market history. So there's never been a better time to take some of those chips off of the table and take some profits, because people will give you phrases like this when the markets are down, like, oh, it's only a paper loss. It's not a loss until you sell out of it. But it's only a paper gain.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Hey, we're in mid to late February here. We got a lot of uncertainty going on in the nation's capital, new administration, a new way of doing things. And if you're thinking about retirement, or you're say 5 to 10 years away from retirement, this could dramatically affect you. And special guest on with us, Patrick Mueller, Bella Advisors. You find him at bellaadvisors.com. And if you have any questions, as always, you can shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Patrick, first-time guest on the show. Welcome. So, hey, planning for retirement, even under the best of circumstances, is difficult. What challenges are we looking at now with all the uncertainty in Washington and taxes and house cuts? What do we do?
Well, it's going to be interesting coming up here, especially this year, because we've got the Trump tax cuts that are going to be expiring at the end of this year. So next year, a lot of people don't realize that we're going back to 2017 rates, which is dramatically different.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens here. And I think, right now in the Senate, it's not looking great at them being able to agree on anything. So hopefully we can get an extension of the current tax rates at least through the end of the Trump administration, and we'll see where it goes beyond that. But a lot of those big moves that Trump is talking about, as far as getting taxes off of your social, not being taxed on your Social Security benefits, or it's going to be a tough road for that.
So what are you supposed to do about it? How do you plan when you don't even know what kind of tax you're going to be paying?
It makes it really difficult. And we help folks with a lot of Roth conversions. And, it's just kind of one of those things. I ask people all the time, do you think that tax rates are going to be going higher or lower in the future? And almost nobody says that they think that they're going to be going lower. So if that's the case, and it's a very small percentage of people when they retire that actually end up being on a lower tax rate in retirement.
Yeah.
So a lot of these programs that people are putting their money into, like 401ks, 403bs, 457 account, traditional IRAs, it's like, hey, defer paying your income taxes now and take it out in retirement when you're in a lower tax rate. It's just we rarely see that happening. So people are shocked when they see what their tax bill is going to be when they're forced to start taking that money out when they reach RMD age of 73 or 75 depending on when you were born. So we do a lot of Roth conversions, like get money to those tax-free accounts now, because more than likely tax rates are probably not going to go much lower in the future.
Okay, so what about like Social Security? Most retirees are at least partially dependent on it, even if they've saved and done everything right. What do you think is going to be with that?
That's a good question. Right now, it's like early 2030s that is projected that if there are no changes with Social Security and the way that rolls out, then everybody's benefits are going to be reduced across the board by 25%, which would be a huge cut. But I think there's a lot of things. I was actually just reading an article this morning that with Doge doing their research, that 21 million people above the age of 100 are still getting Social Security benefits, right? So there's people that are actually in the system right now that are since before the country was even
war.
It's crazy. Social Security benefits. It's insane.
Yeah. So
there could be a lot of changes like that. I mean, that alone, right? You fixing that problem, right, could fix the Social Security issue.
Yeah. All right. So we got interesting times ahead here. Where are you putting your clients? So what are you recommending to them?
Well, one of the things that we use in retirement planning is the rule of 100. So take your age, and that should be the percentage of your savings that is safe and protected from market losses. So if somebody's 50 years old, then we should have half of the money in things that are safe and protected from market losses, and then 50%, it's okay to be in the markets. And the reason for that is now you need the money to live off of. If you don't have a paycheck coming in anymore, it starts making things really difficult.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are going to be stuck here and working for longer than they wanted, ever anticipated working. Retirement, that goal, whatever it might be in your mind, is becoming more elusive, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, now we're at all-time market highs and pretty much still an all-time market history. So there's never been a better time to take some of those chips off of the table and take some profits, because people will give you phrases like this when the markets are down, like, oh, it's only a paper loss. It's not a loss until you sell out of it. But it's only a paper gain, right? It's not a gain until you realize it either. So it's just one of those things. We don't want to take that unnecessary risk. But, this year with the markets, I think it's going to be positive. I think with this new administration coming in, there's going to be a lot of positive moves for lower regulations, better energy prices, lowering inflation probably. So I think there's going to be a lot of positive things over the next 4 years, longer term. But I don't think we're going to have like the 25% plus returns in the S&P like we've had the last couple of years. I think we'll be lucky to do half of that. But because of all these changes, and it's been like a fire hose coming out of Washington, I think it's going to create a lot of instability in the market. So we're going to see a lot of volatility. And I think it'll be like a 12-round fight this year. We're going to go through 12 rounds and get to the end of the year and feel really beat up. But at the end, when you look at your statements, I think they're going to be positive.
All right. Well, I look at is that we now find out that the prior admin was basically cooking all the books, the inflation numbers, especially, but the unemployment numbers, all of that. And if they were to be restated, we might very well come to the determination that, unlike what the administration was telling us, that everything was fine, basically, it wasn't fine. Inflation was actually running higher. And, what does that mean here?
Yeah, I think it's a reality check. And numbers like that coming out, it's definitely going to wreak havoc on the markets. So we could definitely see a big pullback this year and a big retracement, because we've been in a sideways market now since like late October. At this point, is pretty much, it hasn't done a whole much of anything over that time frame, and there's not a whole lot of buyers in the market. We're starting to see that momentum slowing down. So if you start having headlines like that coming out that all the numbers were wrong and things are worse than they were stated previously, we're definitely going to see a big pullback in the market. So that's one of those 12 rounds, right, that we're going to get a little beat up, I think, moving forward to this year.
Yeah, well, it's clear that, they were doing a lot of psyops on us. But, you got to think that the people actually knew in their heart of hearts, even though the numbers from the government were painting a rosy scenario, but people actually knew that things were not as good as they said. And that's why they voted the way they did.
Absolutely. It was overwhelming. And, people, I think over time, they've been just so misled by the mainstream media. Mm-hmm. And it's just been a big propaganda machine, just propping up these narratives for the last few years. And it's like, it's almost seemed like we were an opposite world. Right? Yeah. Like what's bad is good and what's good is bad. And so you're making up to that and getting sick of it.
That CIA program once upon a time that supposedly was ended long ago, but really wasn't, Operation Mockingbird. And that's basically where they send out the message and the press, like mockingbirds, they call it that because they imitate each other. We had the Mockingbird press. And while some people maybe on the coasts in Washington, D.C., in California, in New York, saw it as, yeah, everything's fine. The people in the flyover country who largely determine who gets elected didn't see it that way, did they?
Not at all. Not at all. And you just saw that all across the country with the Trump rallies that you saw going on. Just people coming out in droves and like you said, those flyover states. So you saw it by the numbers, even though that wasn't being represented well by the mainstream media. I mean, you just saw it and you felt it, that that the tide was turning, and the tides are turning. And now this new administration, they're not messing around. Like, Trump came in the first 4 years, and under all the circumstances, he ended up getting a lot of things done. And now he's had kind of 4 years to prepare for what's going to be happening for the next 4 years. And I think there's, we're going to be in for change. If you're not good with change, right, you could be like in this administration. But it's been, I mean, it's been what, a month, less than a month that
it's been 9 days from the day we're speaking on Tuesday, February 18th, which is like, can you believe it? Have you ever seen anything like this? Let's put aside personal political preferences, because they change like the weather, but just the way they hit the ground running, it was like time is of the essence. It's like, it reminds me when I'd be working on some papers to file in court, and I got like 8 hours to get them out, and it's like, just leave me alone, let me do what I want to do, and I'll talk to you later, right?
Yeah, you don't really have a whole lot of time for anything. It's like been a fire hose so far, but they're shotgunning this stuff out there, especially with Elon Musk and the Doge. Every day something, some new kind of scandal is coming out. When it's appearing, now it's gold, right? Is there actually gold at Fort Knox?
Well, we're going to find out. That's going to be interesting, because what if there's no gold in Fort Knox, and all of our enemies or our adversaries have been hoarding gold like crazy, right?
Yeah, well, you've had that. You've had Russia and China buying up gold like crazy for a very long period of time now.
Oh, it's like, yeah, for a decade they've been doing it. Since I got into this space, they have been doing it. So I guess, right, like Donald Rumsfeld said, there are known unknowns, and then there are unknown unknowns. And I don't know which is worse, the unknown unknowns or the known unknowns here.
Right. And it's just good that a lot of this stuff is just coming out, because, and unless we really know what's going on, how could we possibly get better? It's just, and everybody kind of feels it, like, it just seems like the government's always been putting Band-Aids on things, and
kicking the can
artificially, and keeping the markets afloat. So at some point, things are going to hit the fan, and we're going to see a big move. But I don't know, to have a positive foundation to lift off of at this point, I feel like the country almost needs that.
Absolutely. And look, you're intelligent, you work with money. You always knew that the money was getting wasted, right? You knew it because, the government. It's other people's money, OPM, and they don't care as long as their nest gets feathered. But you didn't know the specifics. You knew the macro. The macro is obvious for anybody who looked at it, but the micro is way worse than we could have ever imagined. I mean, without getting into everything they were wasting money on. So bringing it back, though, what's your Doge insurance portfolio look like?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see all the different things that come out here. But one of the things, like I was talking about, that rule of 100, making sure there's so much money safe and it's not tied to the markets. The problems come in when everybody has too much of their money tied to the daily market. So we use a lot of things like structured notes and things of that nature that aren't really affected by the day-to-day markets. But like the stuff to moving forward, like with all of this stuff, technology is going to be a big driver. AI is going to be a big driver. So probably your Magnificent Seven stocks are going to probably fare pretty well this year. And things like energy, when it comes to infrastructure, we've got these big data centers that are being built all around Atlanta here. You've got a bunch of tech companies. So you've got a lot of these massive data centers, and they need energy to support these big centers. So I think focusing on infrastructure like that, semiconductors, things of that nature, even some gold, right? Especially if they don't find the gold in Fort Knox, right? Is gonna be
the gold in your fillings might be the only thing you have that's worth any money, and they don't even use golden fillings anymore, Patrick.
Right, exactly.
All right, hey, so BellaAdvisors.com, that's the place to go.
Yes, sir.
find out more info, you can always send us an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. And a link to Patrick's site is in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. All we ask is that when you visit the site, you please sign up for your free newsletter. Over 70,000 of you have done it so far. We're getting so many because of the uncertainty, because nobody knows what's going to happen. We've been tracking these trends, Patrick, for 14 years since I started this podcast. And as a result, we've called all this. I can't say I called it to the day, and I never expected the system to attempt to heal itself, which is basically what Trump's election is about. But the fact is, this was obvious. You could see it coming a mile away. If they save $1.5 trillion, Patrick, on the budget, and then they bring in another $500 billion in tariffs, the world's looking like a different place, isn't it?
It's going to get a whole lot better. That's for sure.
I think they're going to do it.
For sure. They're on a mission, and all the right people are getting confirmed and getting put into the right places. And it's going to be a masterclass, I think, and what can be achieved.
I just have to pass this on to you. I've worked with governments, courts. I was an attorney for 35 years, and the inefficiency, the incompetence, the time-wasting ability, we've got to see a dramatic restructuring of our legal system. Okay. I wanted to do a podcast and a website called Legal Theft, which basically deals with all the ways that attorneys screw over their clients. But this thing is out of control. And they asked Donald Trump, who's the most powerful lobby in Washington? And he said the lawyers. So I guess everything in its time, and I'm sure that's coming too. But we've become a society that doesn't attempt to basically quickly resolve disputes. We've been a society that intentionally prolongs them to generate fees for attorneys. And as one famous writer said, when they had the line of prisoners going in to be arraigned, they called that the chow. Well, we're the chow of the legal system. And until that gets resolved, we're not really going to be able to solve anything.
100%. And you're seeing that a lot with judges, with some of that information that just came out with judges basically getting money from the U.S. aid through the NGOs and getting paid off. And it's unbelievable, like with a lot of these judges, what they're doing and trying to stop, like right now, trying to stop the president's administration from finding the fraud inside of.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of ridiculous.
It's just like a huge cover-up that's going on now. The rats are starting to jump the ship. Did you see that in the news, all the homes going up for sale and everything? And
yeah, over 15,000 homes, and prices were down substantially. It's kind of like that guy said in Vietnam, we had to kill the village to save it. We kind of have to kill our government to save the country here. I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for coming on. We'll talk to you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kerry. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.